Okay, that's good. Appreciate it.
So as you can see, you can select any kind of a subject, any kind of a challenge, and any kind of an intervention. And this can go on and on and on. You emailed the parent this week, and next week you're going to have a math peer tutor, and just keep going with the student.
Does the district have access to a list of these interventions? I think we report that to you guys of
We don't,
intervention.
you can see them, but we add them because we didn't want to give everybody access to add them, because we were afraid that the same intervention might be added just in a different wording, and we didn't want it to get so long and out of hand.
But does the district have access to the database, the existing input?
Yeah.
Because we go through that, yearly. We usually report to the state office some type of interventions that we've been involved in. We do that on the UCA for our requirements back to you. So does the district have access to this populated database of interventions?
They do not, but if you request it, we'll populate it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we've had several people add more to this.
Okay, it's a great feature. I didn't know it existed. Great.
My favorite is the subscribe one so far.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Except for I went in as a parent and I couldn't do it.
Well, it's not set up.
It's not set up yet.
Perhaps gotta put it on.
I haven't ever had to do it.
Just let me know when you're ready to move on or if you need a break.
Great, you want to move on?
Yeah.
That's good.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Should I have the child coming to middle school next year?
Okay, also, you have your attendance, and as an attendance secretary, you can do rapid entry, or class entry, or student entry. Sorry. Now here's your behavior module. Everybody's scared to death of the behavior module, and you should not be. Behavior module is so that you can track students and you can prove and protect yourselves by why they may receive a U, why they got in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension. And so you want to keep track of your students closely.
I've become really.
So there's been a lot of confusion about the behavior. And we're going to change it a little bit so it's easier.
And we're not gonna, it's because we're not putting any in last year, so if a kid blows his nose wrong, I'm putting that baby in.
There you go.
Yes, you're going to want to put it in. We have gotten it's been kind of interesting. We've had the people from upstairs come downstairs and tell us, we want you to encourage your users to put this behavior information in, because it's going to cost us money in the long run. So be sure and use this. And so as you add a student, you would put in the information, and the notes don't go to the state, just if the student has an incident association record. And when you click on this was gang related, you will see that now this pink piece goes to the Utrecht's state office. None of this other stuff does. The only thing they're interested in is services offered, special ed services offered. They caused the incident. They're in a gang prevention program. They're in alternate placement. They've been with a hearing officer, referred to police, referred to court. They want this information for funding. And what the funding entails, from what I understand, is if you were having a gang problem, or if you were having a suicide problem, or if you were having a bullying problem, you can ask for funding to have training But if you have no incidents submitted to UTREX, you will get no funding because you have no incidents, you have no problems. So be sure and put your information in. It's not to make your schools look bad, it's only to help you. A lot of people are afraid of this information. They think it follows the student forever. But when the state gets the information, all they see are counts. They don't see much at all. They're just looking for number of problems and where do we need to help. Does that make sense? And you can add an action here that you've notified the parent or that they've had, now you have to submit your in-school suspensions and your out-of-school suspensions to the state. And you have to put in how many days that they were suspended. So they start, I'm going to go back a day on the 12th and go to day. And you'll see that it calculates for you 8 days that this student has been out of school suspension. And once I save this gang related here will go to UTREX.
Question on that, so if you go in and select that as a suspension, does it automatically populate the attendance side?
No,
SIS, or do
it
you have
does
to go
not
back
talk
in?
to the attendance screen. You will still have to have your secretary go in and put that this student was out of school suspension.
Thank you.
Well, I'll run through when you select to create a referral on that. So, there's some of the things you put in a behavior that you don't create a referral, it doesn't open up the screen.
Right. So when you click create a referral, it goes into, and we're going to change that too because we have some of our principals saying, I'm the one putting in this incident. I don't want to create a referral because I'm referring it to me. I'm the person doing it. So we're going to change that verbiage a little bit so it's going to look a little bit different. So when you create a referral, all it means is I need to follow up with this. I'm going to follow up with this. The student needs some attention. I'm going to contact the parent. And you can see the behavior was 8 unexcused absence on this particular student. And you add your actions. Maybe you're only going to have some counseling. You're not going to do anything but counsel with the student. And so that kind of information doesn't even go down here unless you choose other and you want to submit referred to a program, etc. So we're going to try and change up the behavior create referral so that it's not so clunky. And we hope to have that done at least by the end of January. And we'll send out instructions on how to use that.
Okay, because it's pretty subjective of when you select that referral. I mean, you can or cannot, because on some of my behavior I don't, because I'm not referring to a program or anything like that. But I guess there's not a hard, fast rule of when you have to, unless it's like a safe schools.
No, there isn't a hard and fast rule, and that's why we're going to change it, is because they also want the ability to delete it. I don't even want this there anymore. And so we're adding that ability. So we're going to make it a little bit more flexible so that you can not think that this is serious and, I'm going to, and we even have some principals say, well, I add caught being good information. And so we want it to be very flexible and friendly so that it does all of that. The good and the bad.
Okay, thank you.
But we'll send you some documentation and explain it better once we get it like we want. But please put it in. And then you can tell the people from the state that I told you to, so I don't get in trouble. It's funny, that opt-out option right there, they've come and asked us to remove that. They don't want you
Paula,
to,
hold on for a second. We're having a conversation about some things to track or not here, so give us 1 sec.
okay.
Paula, I
Uh-huh.
have a question. When a referral is done so that the pink part shows up, is there a way to filter for that when you're searching your behavior incidents?
I don't think there is.
It's Teresa, sorry.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think there is.
That seems like that would be kind of helpful when you have
Okay.
hundreds of incidents, but I don't know. What does everybody else think?
Most people only put in referrals.
Oh. So referral what, to administration or to authorities?
Yes, what that means is I'm a teacher, I've got a problem with a student in my class, and I'm going to put in
Okay.
an incident that I want the principal to follow up on. And so as a teacher, I create the referral. And then if you look right here by the behavior, it shows that there's been
Yes.
16 referrals on my screen.
Ah.
That means 16 teachers have said, I need you to check with these students and talk to them. So we've taken away the need for a teacher to send a note down to the principal and say, can you visit with this student? So the principal or whoever does the behavior can keep an eye on this, and they can call students out of class once they receive the referral. So that referral has been by teachers. But because
Gotcha.
principals put them in too, they're creating referrals also.
I think what I misunderstood then is you spoke about some of them go to the state, like truancy, out of
Right.
those truancy reports. That's different, right?
Yeah, those are the incident reports that go to the state.
Incident.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And on Utrex, you can also look and see what incidents you have sent.
It's because it's a lot of students, and I don't know. Would you put it in the intervention piece or in the behavior piece?
I put it in the A's
In the video?
So,
No video, no
like I
audio.
have one that does have behavior issues.
On the audio, just have them call in.
He was referred to us. I have one that is in there, but like you said, we have others that are just have had incidents or have things outside of the school, so you just say
And then
that,
if you hover over to this, you can make that full screen.
Good.
in the description, and then where it's.
So you can see her screen full screen. And then I will comment.
I don't see, I think it's just a tracking
Yeah.
mechanism to help people know what's going on.
She's still waiting on us.
I unmuted it. Yeah, I think we're good to go. We also got them connected to the WebEx, so they can see your screen a little bit
Oh, good.
easier on their device.
Okay. So
You're good.
it's just hard to view, huh?
Let's hit that one. Yeah, we don't have a giant 70-inch screen in this classroom.
Okay. All right, you ready?
It's good? I think so, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so now you see your communication templates. And this is something we've added for users to create a contact notification.
Here. Send these guys the WebEx link so we can see their screen on their devices. Get a bigger sheet.
We have documentation for all of this, and what you can do is just request it. The reason we had to take it off of the website is because all of the information on the website, they're trying to make ADA compliant, and our documentation is not ADA compliant for the deaf and blind. And so we have so many pictures in our documentation. For us to change that would be massive amount of work and very difficult. So we just removed it so that if you want anything, you just request it and we email it to you. So we hope to eventually make it ADA compliant, but right now we haven't started down that road. So this is
Who do we email? Oh, sorry. Who do we email for the documentation?
Aspire Help,
Okay.
or if you know Becky's address or Eliza's address or my address.
Okay. Thank you.
So here's the communication template, and this is used by principals, secretaries, and what they're doing here is they want to send out a communication to all parents. We call parents contacts because sometimes they're aunts, uncles, grandmas, and guardians, so we just call them contacts. So as you can see, if I want to add this notification, I'm going to say include the student ID, and you put in a bracket, and it brings down all of the fields that you can add to this email. And I want to send first term student summary to all contacts. So some of the districts say, well, we're forcing them to get this information because we know that they're not all subscribing to it and looking at their student information. So we're going to send this out once in a while. So this is how they do it. Any questions with that?
I have a question.
Yeah, and remember
I have a
that
question.
the field on this is a text field. So it's like a text pad.
Paula, we do have a question.
Okay?
Is there any capability to be able to text parents from this?
There is not. The reason is because there's so many different providers out there, Verizon, T-Mobile. We'd have to have all that information to be able to do that, and we don't. So there is not for right now. Most people just email their students. And so on this body of this text, you might want to create it on a Word document and put lots of spaces in between your paragraphs, because what happens is it sends it in one lump like a text pad. And we've had complaints that, that it doesn't look very professional, it doesn't look good, but it's a text pad format. It's not a Word document. And so you're going to want to make sure that when you create it, you put lots of spaces in between so that it doesn't run together. Otherwise, it's just one massive sentence. So just kind of pay attention to that. I'm going to save this template. Oh, it looks like we get an error. And then I can use it later and not have to create it every time. Change passwords. Remember that you don't want to ever know anyone's password, and so we always tell people you can generate them a password, but you're going to want to ask them to change it because you don't want to know anyone's password. And teachers should have the ability to change their own passwords if you let them. They do not let students change passwords. They have done that, and all they've got done is students calling and saying, I forgot what I changed it to. So they don't let students change passwords. Here's your food service module. You guys probably don't need to know about. Legal bindings is where you will see what students have a legal binding. And you can see in one look all of your students that have legal bindings so that you can keep track of your students in one place. You can also do lockers. Does anybody use the locker application?
We do not.
You could import in locker combinations and assign lockers to the students. And here's your opt-outs, so you can see all the students who have opted out of taking assessments. It's taking a minute to load. Okay, we won't look at that. It's taking too long. But it'll list all your students that have opted out of assessments there. It's probably too much information. I'm on a sanitized database, and so maneuvering around sometimes doesn't work very well because the data's so bad. They scramble it so well that it doesn't work sometimes. Come on. I am. Okay, and then you've got your ranked students. So you first have to rank your students before you can run the ranking report. Ranking is pretty much going away. It seems like more schools and more schools are not ranking their students. And here's your registration. This shows you who's all registered, not registered, registered with legal bindings, registered with health concerns, and registration forms and agreements. So this is where your secretaries will pay attention and follow up on registration information. These are students with legal bindings. This helps the secretaries know this student already has a legal binding, but there's been legal bindings added to their registration information. And of course, for a legal binding to be legal, they need to bring in the proper documentation for you to follow up with. So you would just contact them when you see this and say, I need the court document that makes this parent non-custodial.
See, they can click right on that email contacts.
Yeah, and you can email the contact over here and let them know. I need the documentation to follow through with your legal binding request.
And then show them,
The reviews,
show them the setup.
the review CTE records, that is online signatures for teachers. We created that at the request of CTE. They wanted the electronic signatures so that they didn't have to have paper passed from classroom to classroom. And so that is what the review CTE records are. Teachers would see this, and you, as an administrator or a secretary or a CTE director, I can see who has not signed their attendance document for the state. And you can email the teacher right here and say, please sign your document. And then there's the student demographic export. And this is something you're going to want to have only a few people have access to because it has very, very highly sensitive data. So if food service says, I need some information, they should request it from you, and you pull what you need for them and not give them access to this. I've also seen teachers that have access to this, and teachers should not have access to this. This is highly sensitive data. It has your economically disadvantaged information, and this information is only for high administration eyes. So, but there's a lot of information here that you can say, oh, I only want from this one school, I want to clear all the access, and I only want to see who their advisors are. Or as a food service person, I want to know their mailing address and pull that for them and give that to them in a secure place. But if you have given anyone access to the demographic export, please make sure they should have access, because it's highly sensitive data. Transportation. We have some schools who use this. Let me go in here. And they set up carpooling even. Some of the charter schools, they don't have buses, so they set up carpools on their transportation. I don't know if this school has for sure, but it doesn't look like they have. But what you can do is the student gets on bus 1 for coming in and leaves on bus 2. And this really works well for elementary students, to track students. Or if they're carpooling, you can say, you set up a carpool, and the student is dropped off by this parent, and the student is picked up by this parent. And you can set those up. And it's very handy for a secretary to know if a student has missed a bus, they can look up and see what bus the student should have been leaving on. Now, I went to this charter school because they use the fees. And I know that some of you use the fees, and we've had a real long walk to get the fees to be where they are now. But we feel very good about them where they finally arrived. I know that you guys have had problems with the fees, but we feel like we finally got on top of them, and they're working really well. And they are very, very handy to be able to have, to track your student who owes for a textbook or a course. And we've added fee waivers. And we keep adding more and more, but we feel like it's finally working the way it should. It's taken us a while to get there, but we finally think we arrived. And they've got a lot of fees. It's still loading. Okay, now you can see health. We've added immunizations, hearing screenings, live screenings, spinal screenings, vision screenings, incomplete screenings. This is all at the request of school health personnel. They came here and they asked us to help them be able to track students better for their immunizations, their shots. And so we have tried really hard to follow their requests. You can see immunization deficiency exemptions. And this follows the students' immunizations, how many shots they've received. And you can see here concerns for nurse review. They even asked for that. So we really tried hard to do what is requested, and it has been really hard because we've lost so many programmers, historical programmers that were here and knew so much about our software. But we still have good programmers. Thank heavens, we still have some left. It's still loading. Sorry, it's taking forever. I shouldn't have pulled it up. Oh, good grief.
Immunization.
Yes, the wrong one, huh? I shouldn't have opened it. Anyway, here's your scheduling windows. And you can add a scheduling window. Oh, there's your immunizations. They finally popped up. And it shows you each student and what. Oh, come on. It's just too much information.
Scroll down.
No, I don't want to do anything. Okay, I'm going to go back. But anyway, you can drill down on each student and have all their information right here. And follow up for the nurses. The nurses have really, really liked this. They say it's even better than, is it SIS? That I know that a lot of people say that they log into that all the time, but they said this is easier for them to track the students than on the SIS. So here's your scheduling window. So we want to have a scheduling window, and you choose what time you want it, what date you want it to open, and how long you want it to be open. Most schools have opened this up permanently. They like it, and they want students to log in on a term-by-term basis. So they'll open it up for first term, and then they'll open it up for second term, and then some schools open it up for all terms, and they make them scheduled for the whole year. Just depends on what you want to do. But you can put in a message here and say, please be sure and select the right courses so you don't miss out on the courses that you need for graduation. And you could lose a spot if you don't register, schedule correctly. This kind of information is put here as a welcome message. And then you choose the classes. Say, okay, we want the 12th grade to schedule first because they're the most critical to be scheduled. So you'll say only 12th graders can see this scheduling window. And then you'll choose show course catalog, means it shows all the courses that the student needs to see. I'm going to choose all of these. And that they can accept course requests and schedule. So some do course requests first, and then they go back and schedule. So that way they can tell what courses they need to offer. So they'll say, okay, every student go in and do a request. So we can see if we have more students wanting to take weightlifting, then we have courses planned. Well, we find out, yeah, we need to have more classes for weightlifting. So now we know we need to schedule more classes for weightlifting. That's what the course requests do for you. And then later you say, okay, now we've got our schedule set up. We want you to go in and actually schedule yourself. And this has really worked out well. We've had Morgan School District who came from Power School and they paid for an online scheduling application because they wanted their students to schedule themselves. And so we followed closely to their requirements when we created this, and they said that our software is better than what they paid for. They're really pleased with it, and so they live with it. They love it. They use the online scheduling all the time, and so does Nebo, Wasatch. And this is where you would say, okay, I want to do semester 1, semester 2, or all year, and which courses, which periods they can actually schedule for. So you can pin this down pretty well. We have had requests for it to have more perks on the scheduling piece, and we're trying to get to that because Box Elder loves it, and they want us to add more things to it. So we're listening. on that. But we also have documentation for all of this that describes step by step on how to set it up. Then we have our special programs down here, and as a secretary or an administrator, I can come and see who my ELL students are, and I click on who they are. It gives me their names. These are the students, and then I can go into that student if I need to. So it can show you where your students are. Here's your IEP information. Here's all my special ed students. And you can do the same thing with them. You can go in and check and see who they are and work with them one-on-one there.
So let them know about the registration on that, on the IEP. Because there was one down.
Oh, okay, so on the register, it shows that if a parent registers online and their student needs an IEP, you can click on the number 3 here, which shows you have 3 parents who have said, I have a student who needs an IEP or has an IEP. You can click on that and it'll bring up those students so that you can follow up and follow through with that registration for that student. Of course, that they're not going to be put in an IEP. It's just going to let you know. You need to let your IEP director know this student needs to be followed up with. And then here's your youth in custody students. And then your miscellaneous. And there's a lot of miscellaneous. And as you can see, the registered are also there. Economically disadvantaged has 2 parents saying that they are economically disadvantaged. Of course, you have to contact them and have them bring in the information for that to be put into your system. But that lets you know who to follow up with. So here's all your information about all of these different programs. And here's your section 504 that we just added. We've added all of the impairments now that are required by the state. They want them broken out because they said that there is different funding for each impairment. And so now this all will go to UTREX for funding. And this is where you will select it. And how this works is you're either all or nothing. So for instance, if you have a student who starts school and you know they're autistic, you put in autism, start of school, save it. Well, later you find out they have a hearing impairment. So you would come in here and edit this and change there's only one submission to UTREX. So it will include all of them or one of them. So I'd say, okay, I need to add hearing impairment to the autism as the first day of school and save. So that's the way that works. It's a little bit different. But that is how you do. You can select all of these or one of these. And as you notice, it's got extended time information here on notes. So that's the new piece that we just barely added. Okay, are you guys holding up?
194,000.
I'm gonna talk about the interface with Canvas real quick. What it is you have to set up your courses in Aspire. And then they are imported into Canvas. The Canvas side, you can create assignments, tasks, and they will go back and it be imported back into the Aspire gradebook. But remember the Aspire gradebook is the authority. So whatever is created in Aspire will transfer to Canvas, and then scores and new assignments will transfer back to Aspire. But your courses and your categories and your subjects are all created on the Aspire side. And to use
This
Canvas,
district's been doing this for 3 years, the courses, and they helped get the grade pass back working a year ago, this year, so these guys are up to speed on the integration.
oh, good,
And
okay.
thank you so much for working with them to get that going.
We appreciate your work on that.
Great, and it's been really successful. So,
We've had a couple of years.
Thanks when you hit you. You guys have any questions on that? How Canvas and Aspire talk to each other?
I wouldn't know what to ask on it.
Now we just need you to integrate with Google Classroom. That can't, right?
well, the way they've created Aspire, if they followed the formatting that they use for Canvas, they probably could. So what they've done is they've created a generic passback so that whoever wants to, it not just Canvas, whoever wants to use it can. So that, but it would be on the Google side that have to copy the formatting. Okay, so now I'm gonna, do you want to take a break or you want me to keep going?
Let's barrel through.
Okay, I'm gonna log in as a teacher now. One of the biggest questions that I've been hearing is the standards-based reporting.
We do standards-based reporting in our elementary lower grades.
Okay. That was on the list. Are you guys saying you don't want to go over it?
We've got 2 elementary teachers here. How do you guys feel about that? You guys feel okay with the standards-based 1, 2, 3, 4s?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I don't think anyone has any questions about it at this.
No.
I think we're probably good to skip that one.
Pardon me?
We can probably skip that.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, as a teacher, here's my academic intervention right here. So, of course, this is again by permissions. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add to this student's academic intervention
Do they have access to that?
math, study habits. Okay, so I'm going to say we're going to help this student during period 5 with the classroom lesson. Any kind of information I need to add, I'm going to save this. And this is how a teacher will add an academic intervention. And then another teacher will see this and they can add to the log. So you can see that they can see this right from their grade book. Teachers can also email class right here. They can email the whole class from the grade book. Or they can say, I don't want to email this student or this student or this student. And then they put in the body the information that they want to put in. I'm going to say, I'm going to send a link to the student summary, and I'm going to include the student's contacts and remind them, please check your student's information. And that will send out that email to those parents from the teacher. Also in the grade book, all of this information is here available. The teachers that are there, are you aware of this? Your email, your attendance, your profile, and here's your intervention. And when this has a color, it means the student has an intervention. So it won't be white, it'll have a color on it. Also beware we've noticed that some teachers are not aware that you can add an E for excused, ignored, or dropped, M for a missing assignment, R for retake this assignment or test, and blue means it's not automatically dropped, and red is exceeds points possible. So that's how you would put this in for parents to be able to tell. E for excused, M for missing. Now, when you leave a score cell blank, it does not count against the student, even if it's due. The only time it counts against the student is when you put an M for missing. R for retake wipes out the score, so if you were to put in 20 and you went back and was looking at your students' scores and you look at that student, you say, well, this student needs to retake it. It does not save that score 20. It replaces it with an R, and until that student retakes that assignment or test, it does not count against the student.
Gradebook chat, this thing on the top, the excused retake, blue, red. Is it on your clock?
I don't have any classes set up, so I can't check.
You will. Where is she? No, I haven't seen that either.
It was right between.
I've never noticed it before.
It's not. So go to your assignments. Go to
there's
assignments.
So click on legend.
A legend. The legend explains what the marks mean.
You can mark them, you just aren't seeing the legend.
Behavior, quiz test, all grades. So click over on that. It's just a little link on the side.
I like that. I believe in. It's nice to have that option to mark it missing and excused. Or don't put a test score in.
So how do they put it in? Is blue or red, or is that?
It automatically goes that color.
Does the retake populate a score for them? I mean,
No,
count
it does
against them?
not. Retake does not count against them.
Okay.
One of the things that they assumed was if it would remember that there was a 20 in there at one time, and it does not. It just says, okay, this does not count against them, they're gonna retake it. And that also lets the parent know they can retake this test.
Okay. So it's something you would want to change at the end of a term.
Absolutely. And keep track of what the score was if they never did take it.
You have to do that as a setting.
Oh, you set up the grade book, choose one stroke.
One of the things that teachers forget is if they do put in, okay, this is missing and now they've retrieved it, you have to actually go into the student and take off the check mark that's missing. Save it, and then put in the score, because if you put it on the front screen, it does not take off the check mark for missing. You have to go to the actual student name and remove the check mark and then put in the score.
Paula,
Uh-huh.
if they put in a score but don't uncheck the box, what happens?
It doesn't save it.
Oh, it won't save it. Okay,
No.
thank you.
Yeah, they have to take the check mark off. So they want to pay attention to this.
So they can't just delete the M and put a score?
No, you can't just delete the M. You need to select the student, uncheck the checkbox, save it, and then put in the score.
Is that a request that can be made? Why that step?
I'm not sure why it's that way, but I'm sure that it's because it was a lot more programming for it to do it the other way. It's something that we'd probably have to program. And they are going to rewrite the grade book, so that's something that they would look into. You can also put comments here that only the parent can see, because you're on that student. If you put a comment here that this student needs to make sure they turn their homework in on time, well, the parent will be able to read that. That's at a student level. If you put in a comment on the course, that will show up to all students. And on the grades tab is where you can see all information. And if you make comments, canned comments, as a teacher, you can choose those comments that will show up for the parents. And you can also put in a comment here, but it'll add all comments for that student. So the canned comments are quite useful also. Now this teacher doesn't have access right here to do behavior. They haven't given this teacher access to do behavior. So I'm going to change user and go in.
I don't.
I usually just have the little white stuff.
Yeah, and then I decide if I put it in or not.
I'm going to go in and give the teacher access to the behavior so you can see that. Why that teacher isn't seeing that?
Take off the.
Okay, yeah. 4737. Oh, I'm in Twila. No wonder. Got to go to the right database.
Paula, I thought I would mention that when you showed those canned comments can be really helpful in the grade book, but they have to click the legend to know what the O1, the O2, you know, for canned comments. I just thought I'd mention, if they didn't already know, that those, you can see what those stand for in your legend on that, in the teacher grade book, in the grades tab.
Good job.
Where she was showing adding comments.
Yes, thank you. teacher. Come on. And all you need to give teachers on the behavior is the top behavior. They don't need any of the other. And now you can see they can record behavior. For that class. Record behavior. Oh, of course I get an error. But they can record a behavior and submit it to the principal, and then he will see it on his page of behaviors in red. And so a teacher could say, okay, Johnny, you need to go sit in the corner, and you can create this behavior, and then when the principal sees it, or the behavior monitor sees it, they will contact you and have the student sent to their office, and that way it's just good electronic communication plus good tracking. And so, Teresa, where were you saying, if you looked at the legend here, then if it shows...
You were putting in the comments 0308. So 03 you gave them works well with others, and
Yeah.
08 shows improvement. And those are programmed in the administrator's
Right,
side,
if you're on the grade side tab, if you hit legend, it shows you what those canned comments mean.
And I believe the parents just see the comments. They don't see the
Yes, they would see the
codes.
actual
Right.
comment. That would print out on their progress report or the report card. Now, posting grades is usually only done by secondary schools. What posting does, if you keep in mind that they're posted to a transcript. And so that's what the posting does. Elementary level does not post to transcripts, so they don't necessarily have to post their grades. But posting grades stores them permanently. So for instance, in elementary, if you didn't post your grades and you roll the school year over, all of those marks are deleted. So if you post them, all those marks are saved. And usually only 9 through 12 need to be saved. So that's what the posting does. But we have junior highs that also post their marks and save them. And that's fine, but just so people understand what the posting marks does. So as a teacher also, I'm going to go back to the landing page. I'm logged in as a teacher, and as you can see, they can also have a seating chart. I don't know if your schools use the seating chart, but they're a big hit, even with secondary schools. And you can take attendance with your seating chart. It doesn't look like they've got one set up. And they really like that. Let me go into
Hey, Paula, can I back you up for just a second on behavior?
Uh-huh.
If the teacher has the ability to put in behavior, can they make referrals? I mean, is it the same thing that the administrator sees?
That's what the referral is for teachers. And teachers cannot see other teachers' referrals. Teachers can only see their own student and their own referrals. They do not see each other's. It's very private.
Okay.
The principal can see all with the
All right,
access.
that's what I needed to know.
And that's why you only
Thank you.
give them the one permission, is because they don't have access to anything else other than putting it in.
Okay, thank you.
Something you want?
But a teacher, as a teacher, you have a lot of information on this front screen. As you can see, they have the academic intervention here. They can go in and look at the students, and that's why we say this is for all teachers. They can see if other teachers have put in academic interventions for their students in their classes. They can see their reading assessments. If they're first through third grade, this is where they would put that information in, and here's the reading information.
Paula,
Yeah?
in the grade book for the comments, where is that permission
That-
given, or where
that-
do they act?
That is created by administration, and so we can help you set those up. A teacher can't
Is it
create
in
their
grade
own.
book?
They're school level.
So is it in the grade book? Or where?
They're created somewhere
I'm
else,
after now, trying to figure.
and so I can show you how to do that. I created these, but a teacher doesn't create them. They're canned, and they don't create those themselves. So they can ask the principal or the SIS person, here's what we want the canned comments to say, and then you would go put them in for them. So as a teacher, I can have a seating chart, I can do citizenship. Citizenship is usually set up with 100 points possible. That gives you more flexibility. Student was absent too many times. Student forgot to bring their pencil to class over and over. I mean, you can get down to the nitty-gritty of tracking a behavior in your citizenship also. And then if you gave them a U, a parent can actually open up the citizenship on the window in the student summary and see why they received a U. Student was tardy every day of the term. And that information is right there. So citizenship is very important, but it's not very flexible if you just do 1 through 4. You need to give it 100 points, and you have to actually say minus 5 points for being tardy, minus 5 points for forgetting your pencil every day, minus 5 points for talking. And then down here, like I was saying, your reading assessments are here, and here's your health alerts. So a teacher can see their health alerts right here from their screen, and they know which students have problems and need watched. And as soon as they look at these, they need to mark as viewed, and that goes back into the school screen and lets the nurse know the teacher has looked at this and is aware this student has a health problem. And that way the communication is clear, they're aware. Also, another thing is the IEP information, and I should have given IEP access. Teachers have the right to read IEP notes. So for instance, the IEP director has put in an IEP and that this student needs moved to the front of the class. That teacher will see that right here, IEP notes, and they will be able to see, oh, this student needs to be moved to the front of the class. They have a seeing problem, or they need to be close to me. And that information is conveyed right there in the grade book. And that's another permission. This permission hasn't been given here, but you can see there's so many permissions that users are not making available to their teachers that are critical for them.
We have that in our IEP.
problem with it is,
And all they see is their student notes. They don't see any private information, only notes that the director or the IEP person wants the teacher to know about.
undue responsibility on Kim to put in those individual notes too.
Why would Kim have to do it? Why couldn't we open it up?
We talked about that in our last principals meeting, and it's decided that we didn't want our teachers to put it in their scrams or into Aspire. I'm okay, I think they should,
Well,
because Kim shouldn't have to do it.
marking them every year is silly though. Why wouldn't they transfer year to year? That was the conversation,
Well, I
because they
think
have
that-
other things they have to do annually and it just conflicted with like IEP dates and stuff. Like I got the discussion there, but for them
Does
to
it
put
carry-
in
it
notes for
doesn't carry
teachers
over?
to see about their students, that's
The
valuable.
IEP notes will carry over from year to year, so if you have a new teacher next year, they will see, put the student in front of the class, in front of the room. That-
That's not out inside of it. So they just send the scrams and they put it in,
The thing is we have lots of mistakes on our scrams anyway, so that would be the value in having the teachers do it.
I agree there too. I've always thought that it should be something that way we're known it's accurate. Because Kim's just copying whatever they send.
And the new, BioMake doesn't have the scram page like BioMake they're used to, so it's confusing.
So I agree, I think there'd be some great value in being able to put the IEP notes, but the way we do it now with Aspire, I don't see that being fair to Kim to have to put in those notes as well.
But as an administrator, I can mark the kit, because I went in and changed a couple of them, so that's what I'm saying, are you sure they don't have access to it?
They could if they went in and did it, but they don't.
Let me finish showing you this, and then I'll show you where those notes are put in. So I'm just gonna show you one more thing here. Here's your birthday up here for your teacher. Oh, this student's birthday is on the 12th of January. It alerts the teacher that here's your birthdays listed right here. But as a teacher, if I go click on one student here on the interface, I have all this information. I have the student information, how to contact them, the parent email, all their assessments are right here, what special programs they have, a section 504, and here's your 504 notes. Doesn't look like they have it in here. But this information is critical for teachers. Student has autism, student has eyesight, hearing problems. All of this information is important. And their siblings are here, and here's your health alert and your health concerns as a teacher, and their screenings. You could look at their vision screening, and if they passed. There's all kinds of information and medical plans. This is at your teacher's fingertips. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to go to an IP, and I'm going to go to a student, and I'll show you where, here's the notes, and it says shared, that a teacher can view about the student.
She gives you a folder with all this stuff and you're like, yeah, I have time to do that.
Yeah,
But if it was an alert on your,
it's right there too.
well, on the medical, it makes you always check the alert. Well, it says that you're supposed to. And so you go through and check those alerts, but if it had it first set, it would be nice to,
504 plans.
yeah. I'd probably look at it better. 'Cause I don't know.
Yeah, 'cause I think it's, 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 I
than not that doesn't have that.
My sped students have never had an alert.
But they're in there, right? You have them in there.
Yeah, they're in there, it shows.
Permission
But
based.
no.
Oh, you don't see them.
Yeah, the shared notes are permission-based. So if you don't give teachers access to the shared notes, they won't see them. That's why they're called shared, is so that the user knows these are going to be shared.
Okay.
And it tells you on this particular one I have up, it says student is a severe classification and needs modifications for curriculum and accommodations where needed. This is very good information for teachers.
Okay with it. You just have to get your special ed teachers to do it.
Okay, any questions?
We've got a little discussion going on, I don't know if they have
That's fine.
questions. It's good to,
They're doing this outside of SIS, or they should be. It's their job. And so this is just housing it and making teachers accountable for saying it. That's what I'm saying.
It goes year to year, so. I'd say let's do that. Let's try it. We just need to have it ready.
One thing that we are getting away from, we have so many reports, as you are all aware of. We feel like we're report poor. And as you can see, we have a lot of reports here that are available, but one thing I just wanted to bring up was we're getting so that we're following the web on how to print. And so it's a right click, print, preview, and so you're going to want to train your secretaries that a lot of things in the future are going to be done this way. And this is the way a lot of the printing is going to come to pass. Because this is the wave of the future. Well, I guess it's not the future anymore, it's here. But you can see there's 32 pages. And that would print all of their active students. Of course, you wouldn't want to do that, you just want to do an export. But that is the way the printing is going to continue. And a lot of it is done right now with the new registration.
So Paul, is there a way that that screen would print as it's shown instead of pulling it up in a single column? We've tried to do that with our classes, and so that it had 4 columns on there. It's really nice, but then when you hit print, it makes it a single column and 32 pages, which is a pain in the butt.
It's a Google website or a Windows website.
Okay, well, I hate that.
So as you notice, that registration says reports right here. And that's where you're going to print your reports from also. And you can hit print on this thing here. So a lot of our reports are going to change.
And we're starting to filter too.
And we're doing a lot of filtering. By grade level, by registration date.
Mine opt out of that data information.
And you
They don't
can
show up
see, now that I've said print, I'll probably want to print this in Adobe so that I don't have to actually send it to a printer. And that's a lot of things you're going to want to train your secretaries to do. Also, there's a links up here. If you add links for your users, this goes to the USOE data display, which is the data gateway. And it says, now you are now leaving Aspire. And I can go to the data gateway from Aspire. But you do have to set that up. But there are instructions on how to do that. And there's my data gateway. And you can do SSID there for your secretaries that do the SSID, or you could do your school web page for your teachers. Add different links.
That information, because I didn't have anybody sign that. Directory information.
Okay, I'm looking at this list, and I'm thinking I've gone through most everything on here. Is there any other areas you would like me to go over?
I'm inundated. No, we just prefer to call you later. When we can't remember how to do it.
Yes, that keeps us working. We love hearing from you. Please call. We would rather you called and asked questions rather than not use it or make errors in setting things up. So please call. We even get calls from teachers. We don't care.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And are you going to want to do this again? Or have you got enough information to fill you up for the year?
I think we filled our minds.
But yeah, I'm gonna be working with Garfield and Beaver to figure out, what pieces. Because I know Garfield isn't using all the modules that you went through today. And I'll be in touch with Lenice, and I'll let you know for the 16th.
Okay. Yeah, let us know at least in a week so that we can get this scheduled again.
You bet. Yeah,
Okay.
We'll let you know. And like I said, it was hard to get anything going over the break, so I'll talk to Lenice this week and we'll let you know as soon as we can.
Thank you. You guys are a great audience.
Thanks,
You
Paula.
gave them a lot to think about, a lot of good should we's and why aren't we, and this should be used this way. So it's good information. We appreciate it. Teresa, do you have any other last comments or anything you want to add?
One thing that we would advise is for your SIS administrator to go through those permissions and make sure they all have the permissions they need, because if they don't have permission, they don't even see it.
Let me ask you real quick, Paula, on the behavior, in order to have teachers put that in, do I
Just the top box.
do I give them behavior administrative access or just the
Just
one
check
check?
No, just the top box only, and uncheck all the others.
All right, he just made that
Sounds
change,
like it's
so
next door.
now your
Okay.
teacher should be able to put in behavior tables.
Okay.
Okay, thank
so
you
much.
guys.
Appreciate you for coming, working with us on January 2nd. I don't know if this was a day off for you or not.
No.
All right.
Okay,
Take
thank
care.
you.